The galaxy thought they knew us. To them, humanity was fragile, scattered across a single blue world. Too young, too small, too naive to matter. But they were wrong. When the fleets of the Dominion encircled Earth, the skies burned with their arrogance. They demanded surrender. They promised mercy. They expected silence. Instead, humanity answered with something they had never seen. A weapon buried not in steel, but in our will. A storm forged in centuries of struggle, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment we could endure no longer. The first ripple spread through the stars like a heartbeat, and the galaxy trembled. No one spoke. No one dared. Because in that single moment, the question was no longer whether humanity could survive. It was whether the galaxy could survive humanity. Commander Elias Rourke had never liked ceremonies. He was a man of steel decks and quiet skies, of routines measured in the hum of engines and the rhythm of watch rotations. Medals, speeches, grand halls, those belonged to politicians. Elias preferred the solitude of his command chair, where he could trace the curve of Earth through the viewport and remember why they fought to keep it safe. To most, he was a soldier. To those who knew him, he was a father, a widower who raised his daughter alone on the edges of Earth's burgeoning star frontier. Her name was Marin, 12 years old, full of questions and laughter, her sketchbook always tucked under her arm. She drew the stars the way she imagined them, alive, full of hidden creatures and wonders. Elias kept every one of her drawings folded neatly in his desk, as if paper could anchor him to the life he risked losing every time he sailed into the black. On the morning it began, life still seemed ordinary. The fleet drills were routine, supply convoys steady, and the Dominion, that sprawling empire of alien conquerors, had been quiet for months. Too quiet, some whispered. But to Elias, silence was a gift. Silence meant another day to walk the corridors of his station, to listen to his daughter's chatter echo through the mess hall, to drink bitter coffee while reading Marin's latest letter about a comet she'd seen streaking across the atmosphere. Yet under that calm, a shadow lingered. The Dominion's last envoy had stood in the council chamber, tall and cold, its segmented armor gleaming like a predator's shell. Its voice, translated into a dozen tongues, had spoken only one truth. You are small. You are weak. When the time comes, you will kneel. The council dismissed it as bluster, but Elias had seen enough battle to know the threat was not idle. He could feel the tension in the silence, like a storm building far beyond the horizon. The ships in dockyards were being refitted faster than usual. The encrypted communiques from Earth's defense network grew more frequent, and the stars themselves seemed to whisper of something gathering in the dark. For Elias, the unease wasn't in what he could see, but in what he could not. He had spent years in the outer colonies, where whispers of vanished fleets and burned outposts drifted like ghost stories. Officially, the records claimed piracy or natural disaster. Unofficially, survivors spoke of Dominion warships testing Earth's defenses, probing like knives against armor. Each time the encounters ended in silence, a silence bought with blood. Still, Elias carried himself with quiet resolve. Humanity had always been underestimated. They had been mocked, invaded, nearly erased from history more than once. Yet every time, they clawed back from the edge, scarred but unbroken. Marin understood none of this. To her, life on the station was an adventure. She would press her face to the observation glass, tracing the patterns of ship traffic like constellations. She would tug her father's sleeve, asking if the stars were alive, if they whispered secrets. Elias would smile, brushing her hair back, promising that one day she'd see those secrets for herself. That day would come sooner than either of them realized, because in the weeks that followed, rumors hardened into reports. Entire colonies fell silent overnight. Convoys vanished without a trace. Patrol ships stumbled upon wreckage drifting cold and lifeless, hulls torn open as if by some colossal predator. The Dominion wasn't waiting anymore. They were advancing, and humanity, cornered, underestimated, pushed to the edge, had only one choice left: to reveal the storm they had kept hidden for centuries. A weapon not of arrogance, but of desperation. A force not meant to conquer, but to ensure survival. Commander Elias Rourke, the father who tucked away sketches of stars in his desk, would be among the first to stand at the threshold of that revelation. He could not know it yet, but the day was coming when silence would shatter, when the galaxy would finally glimpse the truth of what humanity had prepared. And when that day arrived, the stars themselves would fall silent. The Dominion struck without warning. One moment, Earth's colonies were alive with the hum of trade convoys and the chatter of settlers. The next, entire sectors went dark, as if swallowed by some vast, unseen predator. Distress calls sputtered across the channels, fragmented, panicked, cut off mid-scream. By the time Elias Rourke's station received the first verified transmission, half the outer rim was already burning. The Dominion fleet moved with terrifying precision. Their ships were unlike anything humanity had seen. Jagged crescents of obsidian metal, engines glowing with sickly green fire. They cut through orbital defenses like blades through cloth. Planets surrendered, and still the Dominion pressed on, demanding Earth itself yield before the weight of their armada. But humanity did not yield. The Council convened in panic, voices rising with fear and desperation. Some urged immediate surrender, believing survival could be bought with submission. Others called for diplomacy. Foolishly, Elias thought, as if negotiation were possible with an empire that saw weakness only as prey. Through it all, Elias stood silent, hands folded behind his back, waiting for the one order he knew must come. When it did, it arrived not from the Council, but from Earth's hidden command network, a message encrypted so deeply that even Dominion infiltrators could not pierce it. Code Directive, Aegis. The words chilled Elias more than any Dominion threat. For decades, rumors whispered of a program buried beneath layers of secrecy, a weapon humanity had sworn never to use unless extinction loomed. Elias had dismissed it as myth. But now, as Dominion fleets encircled the Sol system, myth became reality. Earth would reveal its hidden arsenal. The order came down to Elias with the weight of finality. Hold the line, buy time, whatever the cost. His station bristled with defenses, but against the Dominion's main armada, they would be pebbles hurled at a storm. He gathered his officers in the command deck, their faces pale in the glow of tactical screens. "We don't need to win," Elias told them, voice low but steady. "We need to endure. Every second we hold buys Earth time to prepare. That's the measure of our duty. Not glory, not survival, just time." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, but they nodded. Humanity had been underestimated before. That was their advantage. The Dominion had no idea what was coming. The first assault arrived like the wrath of gods. Dominion warships bled into real space, tearing rifts open in the void. Their guns spat lances of emerald fire, hammering shields until they screamed with static. Elias barked orders, his voice carrying above the chaos. "Evasive pattern Delta 9. Redirect reactor output to forward shields. Launch decoy drones, now!" The station shook as the first barrage slammed home. Sparks showered the command deck, smoke curling into the recycled air. Elias gripped the rail, steadying himself as tactical feeds lit up with hostile markers. Human destroyers swarmed from their docks, engines blazing. They were outmatched, outgunned, but not outwitted. Commanders pulled maneuvers no Dominion tactician would expect. Feints through asteroid belts, sacrificial charges to draw enemy fire, ECM bursts to blind sensors. For every ship humanity lost, they bought another minute, another heartbeat, another chance. The Dominion commander, a towering insectoid mind ensconced within its dreadnought, watched with growing irritation. The humans resisted with a ferocity disproportionate to their size. They should have broken already. Yet somehow their formations adapted, their tactics twisted into patterns the Dominion could not predict. "Primitive," the commander hissed through its relay, "but stubborn." It ordered its fleets forward. The humans would be crushed beneath overwhelming force. On the station, Elias knew the tide would break eventually. Already, casualty reports streamed across his console. Entire wings of fighters were gone. Destroyers drifted silent, their crews burned out in firestorms. Yet still, his people fought. Still, they endured. "Commander, we can't hold much longer," his tactical officer whispered. Elias nodded. "We don't have to." Because deep beneath Earth's crust, in caverns older than recorded history, something was awakening. Project Aegis. It began as a low tremor across the network, a coded pulse carried in silence through the void. Dominion ships, attuned to electronic warfare, dismissed it as static. But to human vessels, it was the heartbeat of salvation. Massive launch doors opened in the oceans of Earth. From their depths rose titans of steel, warships no alien spy had ever glimpsed, designed in shadows and tested only in simulations. They were unlike any human craft before them. Their hulls were layered with experimental alloys, their weapons arrays pulsing with controlled singularities, their drives silent as the void. For generations, humanity had hidden them, fearing the day they might be needed. Now, at last, that day had come, and Elias's station, battered and burning, would be the first to see them arrive. The Dominion fleet faltered. Their sensors flared with sudden signatures, dozens, then hundreds of massive human vessels bleeding into the battle space. They were vast, angular, bristling with weapons that no known registry could classify. Elias stood frozen, awe carving itself into his features. Even he had never imagined the scale of it. Humanity's hidden arsenal had not been an exaggeration. It was a storm given form. The first volley fired, and the galaxy itself seemed to pause. Beams of white-hot energy lanced through the void, carving Dominion cruisers in half. Kinetic projectiles, chunks of tungsten accelerated to near light speed, tore through dreadnought armor as if it were glass. Swarms of autonomous drones erupted from hidden bays, darting like metallic hornets, overwhelming enemy defenses with precision strikes. For the first time, Dominion formations wavered. Their commanders hissed in alarm, their flawless advance fracturing under the weight of an enemy they had never accounted for. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm. But even storms pay a price. Elias's station continued to burn. Decks collapsed, fire suppression failed, casualties mounted. In the chaos, he caught sight of Marin in the evacuation queue, her sketchbook clutched tight. For a moment his resolve wavered, the father inside him screaming to abandon the station, to escape with her. But duty anchored him. He could not leave. Not yet. "Marin," he whispered through the comm, voice trembling with the weight of both command and love. "Go. Get to the shuttles. I'll find you." Her eyes filled with fear, but she nodded. She trusted him. She always had. Elias turned back to the command deck, steel returning to his spine. If this was to be his last stand, it would be worthy of the storm humanity had unleashed. The Dominion rallied with fury. Dreadnoughts concentrated fire on the hidden fleet, their weapons screaming across the void. Alien commanders shrieked in disbelief as ship after ship vanished under the new human barrage. Still, they pressed on, desperate to shatter this unexpected resistance. One Dominion carrier rammed straight through the defensive line, engines burning with suicidal determination. Its target, Elias's station, already crippled. "Impact in 2 minutes!" a sensor officer cried. Elias felt the breath leave his chest. His station could not withstand a direct collision. Every soul aboard would be lost. Unless... His eyes locked on the tactical overlay, mind racing. The Dominion carrier was enormous, but clumsy. If they redirected the station's remaining thrusters, if they rerouted what little power remained to the forward shields, they could alter the carrier's trajectory, not enough to stop the collision, but enough to redirect it into the path of one of humanity's new warships. It would be suicide, but it would also mean survival for Earth's fleet. Elias drew a steady breath. All hands, prepare for maneuver Bravo 7. The officers stared at him in shock. They knew what it meant. They knew what it would cost. And yet one by one they nodded. Humanity had always endured. This was how. The thrusters roared to life, the station groaning as it shifted in space. The Dominion carrier loomed larger, filling the viewport like a monstrous shadow. Elias gripped the rail, his knuckles white, his heartbeat steady. "Marin," he whispered, though she could not hear him now. "Live. For both of us." The collision came with blinding light. The Dominion carrier, redirected at the last instant, plowed into the side of one of the newly revealed warships. The explosion was titanic, a fireball blooming across the void, consuming both vessels in a storm of debris and flame. The shockwave tore through space, scattering fighters, shattering formations. For a moment, the battle froze in stunned silence. Then humanity's fleet surged forward, with fury, with resolve, with the storm the galaxy had never imagined. And in that silence, one truth crystallized across the stars. The Dominion had awakened something they could never put back to sleep. The battle should have ended with the explosion. Elias's station was gone, consumed in fire and silence, and with it, many believed the human defense had shattered. For a heartbeat, Dominion commanders tasted victory. But then the void shifted. Through the drifting wreckage came the rest of humanity's hidden fleet, silent as the grave, rising like leviathans from the deep. Their hulls glowed with searing energy, their weapons arrays humming with restrained fury. What the Dominion had destroyed was only the vanguard, the storm was only beginning. Still, the Dominion pressed forward. Their empire was built on conquest. Retreat was a word carved out of their language. They unleashed every weapon at their command: lances of plasma, clouds of nanite swarms, gravity shear bombs that twisted space itself. And humanity answered in kind. The new warships fought like predators unleashed from centuries of chains. Beams of light carved through dreadnoughts, drones ripped apart carriers, and kinetic barrages hammered even the largest Dominion flagships into ruins. Yet for every enemy vessel destroyed, another pushed forward. The sky itself seemed to burn as the two forces clashed, neither yielding, both bleeding. It was in this chaos that Marin's shuttle, packed with survivors from the station, was caught in the maelstrom. The little craft darted between shattered hulks and flaming debris, its engines straining. A Dominion fighter peeled away from the swarm, sensors locking onto the shuttle like a predator scenting prey. Inside, Marin clutched her sketchbook to her chest, eyes wide, heart hammering. Her father had promised he would find her. He always had. But he was gone. And still, she whispered, "Please, not yet." The fighter swooped in and was obliterated in an instant. One of the massive hidden warships had shifted course, its guns flaring to protect the tiny shuttle. To Marin, it felt as if her father himself had reached out from the void, shielding her one last time. Tears blurred her vision, but she held her sketchbook tighter, the stars outside burning like the drawings she had once imagined. On the Dominion flagship, their supreme commander seethed. "Impossible," it rasped, mandibles clicking in fury. They were supposed to be weak. But the data was undeniable. Humanity had not only survived, they were winning. slowly, brutally, bleeding for every inch, but winning. The commander's mind raced. If this fleet was allowed to break free, the Dominion's aura of invincibility would crumble. Worlds long held in chains would rise, emboldened. The Empire itself could fracture. There was only one option left. The Dominion flagship activated its Doomsday Core, a weapon of annihilation capable of collapsing an entire star into a singularity. If they could not win, they would ensure humanity's cradle, Earth itself, was consumed in fire. The core began to charge. On humanity's flagship, Admiral Chen saw it first. The tactical display painted the growing anomaly, a distortion blooming dangerously close to Saul. Her blood ran cold. "They mean to collapse the system," she whispered. "They'll erase us all." No weapon in their arsenal could stop the core once it reached critical mass, unless someone got close enough to strike before it finished charging. But the Dominion flagship was a fortress, shielded, armored, surrounded by escorts. A suicide run, at best. For a long, breathless moment, silence gripped the command deck. Every officer knew what was required. None dared say it. Until a familiar voice crackled across the comms. "This is Commander Elias Rourke." Gasps filled the deck. Elias should have been dead. His station had been obliterated in the collision. Yet his voice was steady, scarred with fire but unbroken. "I'm in one of the crippled destroyers," he continued. "Hull's half gone, engines barely holding. But I've still got a drive core, enough to ram their flagship before the weapon completes." Admiral Chen closed her eyes, grief and relief tangling inside her chest. "Elias, you won't survive." "That's the point," he said softly. In the wrecked destroyer, Elias sat alone in the command chair. Flames licked at the ruined consoles, smoke curled around him, alarms wailed in protest. Yet his hands were steady on the controls. Across the void, he saw the Dominion flagship, its core glowing brighter with every passing second. He thought of Earth, of its oceans and forests, of the people who still believed in survival. He thought of the Council, scrambling to comprehend the cost of their secrecy. And most of all, he thought of Marin. Her laughter, her sketches, her wonder at the stars. He pulled one drawing from his pocket, edges charred, colors faded. A child's vision of the galaxy alive with light. He pinned it to the console in front of him. "For you," he whispered. Then he engaged the engines. The crippled destroyer roared forward, flames trailing like a comet's tail. Dominion fighters swarmed to intercept, but Elias weaved through them, guns blazing, shields crackling. His ship was falling apart around him, but he pressed on, closer, faster, unstoppable. The Dominion flagship loomed, its core nearly charged, space itself warping with its power. "Almost there," Elias breathed. A fighter's blast tore through his hull. Consoles exploded, fire engulfed the bridge. Pain seared his body, but still he pushed the throttle to maximum. The flagship's shields flared ahead, impenetrable to any weapon, but not to a ship's drive core on overload. "Humanity endures," Elias whispered, and slammed the final command. The destroyer plunged into the flagship. For an instant, silence reigned. Then came the light, blinding, all-consuming, a shockwave that tore through the void. The Dominion flagship disintegrated in a firestorm, its doomsday core collapsing in on itself, devouring the vessel from the inside. The singularity flickered, unstable, then collapsed harmlessly into nothingness. The weapon was gone. So was Elias. When the light faded, the battlefield was transformed. Dominion fleets faltered, their flagship destroyed, their command severed. Humanity's hidden arsenals surged forward, striking with renewed fury. One by one, Dominion vessels fell, retreating in chaos. Across the stars, silence spread. Not the silence of victory, not yet, but of shock. Because in that single blazing moment, the galaxy had witnessed something impossible. Not just the power of humanity's weapons, but the power of their will. The battle was won, but the story was not over. Because now the galaxy had to ask itself a question, one that would echo in every council chamber, every warlord's heart, every whisper of rebellion. If this was what humanity had hidden all along, what else were they capable of? The Dominion thought their fleet was untouchable. From orbit, their warships blotted out the stars, endless rows of armored leviathans, each bristling with weapons enough to burn entire continents. To the galaxy, they were inevitability made manifest. To Earth, they were extinction made flesh. And yet, humanity did not bow. Admiral Kepler stood on the command deck of the Resolute, eyes locked on the shimmering storm of plasma fire that painted the void in blinding arcs. His fleet, smaller, older, hopelessly outgunned, held formation against impossible odds. Every second they lasted was a defiance written in blood and fire. "Admiral," his tactical officer's voice cracked, "shields at 20%. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 9. We can't take another volley." Kepler didn't blink. His gaze was fixed on the Dominion flagship, a colossal dreadnought that radiated arrogance like a star radiates heat. He had studied it, every contour, every weakness. He knew where the heart of the beast beat. "Ready the signal," he said. Across the battered fleet, captains and crews straightened. They knew what it meant. Humanity's hidden arsenal, the storm no alien had ever witnessed, was about to be unleashed. But first, they had to hold. The Dominion struck again. Beams of annihilation tore through the void, shredding 2 destroyers in seconds. Screams echoed across comms, ships venting fire and life into the endless dark. And still, the humans fought on, weaving between plasma torrents, counter-striking with precision, bleeding for every heartbeat gained. Then, the silence. The signal left the Resolute, and space itself seemed to change. All across the system, dormant stations, relics dismissed as mining outposts or abandoned satellites, came alive. Panels cracked open, hidden arrays unfolded, and the void filled with a lattice of power humanity had sworn never to reveal. The Dominion commander sneered, unmoved. Pathetic tricks, shadows to frighten children. But then the lattice shifted. A ripple spread across the stars, bending gravity, distorting light. The Dominion fleet faltered as navigation systems screamed as artificial horizons collapsed into chaos. And from the heart of that storm, Earth's true weapon revealed itself. Not a single cannon, not a single ship, but a web of ingenuity, a network of impossible science born from desperation. Project Aegis. Kepler's voice cut through the comms, steady, unshaken. For every child they burned, for every city they scarred, for every name they thought forgotten. Fire. The lattice unleashed its fury. It wasn't light. It wasn't flame. It was silence. A terrible, crushing silence, as Dominion warships were torn apart not by explosions, but by the absence of existence itself. Space folded inward, collapsing into gnawing voids that swallowed hull and crew alike, leaving nothing but afterimages. The galaxy had never seen such a weapon. Even the oldest empires, with their ancient archives, had no record of humanity's storm. The Dominion dreadnought staggered, its hull shuddering as sections simply vanished into nothingness. Its shields failed in an instant, its arrogance faltered. On the Resolute's deck, the crew stared in awe as their enemies, the conquerors of 1,000 worlds, died screaming into silence. But victory demanded sacrifice. The lattice burned through reactors faster than they could be fed. Already, systems overloaded, conduits melting with the strain. Kepler knew the price. Every commander across the fleet knew the price. "Admiral," his XO whispered, "if we fire again, I know, Kepler said. Another volley, another silence, another Dominion cruiser consumed. The Admiral stood tall, the weight of humanity's survival balanced on his shoulders. We may not live to see the dawn, he said quietly, though every comm in the fleet carried his words. But we will make sure humanity does. The final command left his lips, and Earth's hidden arsenal sang. The storm consumed the dreadnought. One moment it was a colossus blotting out the stars. The next, it was gone. Reduced to fragments, its heart ripped from the void itself. Silence followed. Not victory celebrations, not cheers, just silence. Because in that moment the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm that waited in the dark, the fire hidden in the ashes, the hand that turned despair into defiance. And now, the galaxy had to ask itself a question it had never considered before. If this is what humanity had hidden all along, what else were we still hiding?